A very good afternoon. It is 1 p.m. here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and you are just in time for the Ambassador, where we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. I am your Ambassador, Susan Nganga. Now to our first story that is making headlines right here in Kenya. A tragic accident in Haiti has left 2 people dead and 8 Kenyan police officers injured. It happened Sunday evening alongside the Kenkov-Petionville route, just outside the capital Port-au-Prince. Officials say an armored vehicle towing a disabled one broke down, causing the crash. One of the dead was a Kenyan officer serving in the UN-backed mission to fight gangs. The other was a civilian. 3 of the injured officers are in serious condition and were airlifted to the Dominican Republic for treatment. This incident brings the number of Kenyan officers killed in Haiti to 3 since the mission began over a year ago. One of the killed in a gang attack and the other remains missing and is presumed dead. The mission continues amid ongoing violence and instability in the country. We will keep him updated on that report as it develops. And now we shift the focus to what's currently happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where it's back to school season. But in Goma, a city of over 2 million people, war is looming. Under the control of the M23 rebels, the city is suffocating, putting children's education at risk. The atmosphere in Goma market is far from festive, and this situation is affecting preparation for the new school year, as Davis Karani now reports.
4 months now, the M23 rebels have controlled the city of Goma and its surroundings, strangling the locals' economy. Goods pile up, but buyers are scarce. This situation is affecting preparations for the new school year.
Since the war began, there's no work and we can't sell. In previous years at this time, I would have sold products worth 100,000 francs, but now I've only sold 10,000 francs. We don't know if the children will study or not, since there's hardly any movement in notebook sales. The customers aren't here. It's likely children will reuse their old uniforms, but for notebooks, resources are insufficient.
In Goma as in Bukavu, parents struggle to find essential for the new school year. Prices for the school supplies have skyrocketed, a direct consequence of the conflict. Notebooks, uniforms, backpads, everything has become out of reach. Victims of inflation and shortage are in this city.
We're making efforts, but with the situation in the city, the war, we face difficulties paying for basic items. We keep trying, but honestly, the situation is very bad.
For many families, school is a broken dream. The exorbitant costs, combined with a crippled economy, have turned education into an inaccessible commodity.
I have 4 children, but I lack notebooks and backpacks. I spent $50, and you should see how I managed that. It's possible the children will study, but life is too hard.
Violence is threatening the education of thousands of children in Goma and across eastern DRC. The future of schooling seems held hostage by the conflict. Yet, despite the obstacles and uncertainty, thousands of children continue to hope for a better future, a future that war threatens to steal from them. Davis Karani for GBS News, DR Congo.
A very heartbreaking story indeed. And now we shift the focus to fighting in Sudan's Darfur, where the region is intensifying as the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces continue their year-long siege on El Fasher, the last major city in the region, still under army control. At least 19 people were killed in recent strikes, including 12 in a drone attack on a clinic in South Darfur and 7 more in bombings blamed on the RSF. The humanitarian situation is worsening rapidly. Around 260,000 civilians, including 130,000 children, are trapped in El Fasher's main displacement camp. The UN warns that 6,000 children are suffering from severe acute malnutrition, with aid blocked by ongoing fighting. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for an immediate ceasefire, condemning what he described as RSF's relentless attacks. He warned that continued violence could push the city into a full-scale catastrophe. And now we also shift the focus to what's currently happening in the United Kingdom, where Home Secretary Yvette Cooper is outlining sweeping reforms in London aimed at tightening asylum rules and halting illegal migration. She is announcing a temporary suspension of new refugee family reunion application and implementing an immediate return of small boat arrival to France and a new bilateral deal. Here are the details.
Migrants arriving via small boat.
The UK Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said the government had looked at an asylum system, terming it as chaotic, as gangs with small boats drive migrants from the French coast, soaring backlogs, and widespread illegal walking. She revealed that she signed a new treaty with France a month ago, enabling the return of arrivals directly from Dover, which are scheduled to start later this month. She also announced a halt to new refugee family reunion applications, citing misuse by smuggling networks, forcing applicants to be subjected to stricter rules, including income thresholds before new rules are introduced next season.
We've increased raids and arrests on illegal working by 50%, and we cut the annual hotel bill by almost £1 billion in the last financial year. We are rolling out digital ID and biometric kits so immigration enforcement can check on the spot whether someone has a right to work or a right to be in the UK. And on channel crossings and organised immigration crime, we are putting in place new powers, new structures and new international agreements to help dismantle the criminal industry behind the boats. So I want to update the House on the further steps we're now taking. In August, I signed the new treaty with France, allowing us for the first time to directly return those who arrive on small boats. The first detentions took place the next day of people immediately on arrival in Dover, and we expect the first returns to begin later this month.
The suspension responds to growing public frustration with the number of asylum seekers housed in hotels. In recent months, the number of small boats crossing has surged, increasing pressure on the system. Refugee charities have voiced strong opposition, and Red Cross warned that suspending family reunification will push more desperate people into the arms of smugglers, disproportionately affecting women and children.
But the principles it embodies are crucial, because no one should be making these dangerous or illegal journeys on small boats, and if they do, we want to see them swiftly returned. But in return, we believe in doing our bit alongside other countries to help those who have fled persecution through managed and controlled legal programmes. This summer, we've also taken further action to strengthen enforcement against smuggling gangs. France has reviewed its maritime approach to allow for the interception of taxi boats in French waters, and we will continue to work with them to implement this change as soon as possible.
The Home Office will bring forward tougher immigration rules, and comprehensive reforms to family reunion will be rolled out by next season. An independent appeals body is being created to streamline asylum processing and reduce wait times. Under the UK-France deal, returns of small boat arrivals are set to begin later this month, signaling a shift to more robust border enforcement. Moilin Runu for GBS News.
That is the worst year in history, and everyone...
A stellar report there, and now that report will take a very short break. We'll be right back with even more international news as we continue to debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics.
Hello kids! Today we are going to learn the story about Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Do you know of any other miracle that Jesus Christ did? Do you know which work Jesus Christ used to do? My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. 5 tiny barley loaves, 2 small fish in a little boy's lunchbox. Although it wasn't much, he gave it to Jesus.
But what is the problem? The problem, people don't want to hear the voice of Jesus, and they don't want to live through the voice of Jesus. But most of the time, people are living their life of struggling. The people who died before receiving Jesus Christ, the people who died in sin, those people, they will go to the judgment, they will go to the fire, and those people will say that they are dead because they will face the second death, which is the hellfire. People without knowing this, people think that, no, I should do something. No, I need to do something. Why? Because they don't know exact heart of God. They don't know exact will of God. And through this, God allowed His goodness. God allowed the problems in our life. And when God allowed this goodness leads us to
AS and A levels is a qualification program that is advanced. That is after one has completed the high GCSE program, then they advise to continue for AS and A level. AS typically is a 1-year program, and A levels is done in the 2nd year after completing the AS level. And this one equips the student with the knowledge that is recommended for the university and also by employers outside the countries or within the country.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the bulletin. And now, Brazil's Supreme Court is set to deliver its verdict in the explosive coup plotting trial of former President Bolsonaro. The case has not only gripped the nation, but also rattled international politics after the President Donald Trump came out strongly in Bolsonaro's defense, running the proceedings a witch hunt. In a dramatic twist, Trump announced sweeping 50% tariffs on key Brazilian goods, escalating tension between Washington and Brasilia. The world is watching closely as Brazil weighs the fate of its former leader. The outcome could reshape both its democracy and its global standing.
Right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro, who is accused of orchestrating a failed coup after losing his re-election bid to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Had it succeeded, it would have been Brazil's first coup since 1964, which marked the beginning of a decade-long dictatorship that many here still remember.
This is the very first time in Brazil where very high-ranked military officials can be imprisoned as well as the former President Jair Bolsonaro.
In January 8, 2023, Bolsonaro supporters stormed the Supreme Court, Congress, and Presidential Palace, calling the military, who had taken office just a week earlier. Although Bolsonaro was in the United States at the time, critics say he had long been undermining Brazil's democracy. He repeatedly made unfounded claims that the voting system was easily reached and held meetings with top military leaders to discuss constitutional options to remain in power if he lost the 2022 elections. According to the federal police, the coup only failed because the Army and Air Force commanders refused to support it. Now Bolsonaro is on trial alongside his Navy commander, 4 other military officials, a congressman, and a former justice minister. The former president is facing 5 criminal charges, including participating in an armed criminal organization and violent attempt to overthrow Brazil's 40-year-old democracy. He denies all the accusations. U.S. President Donald Trump has not only shown a strong interest in the trial, but he has openly sided with Bolsonaro, his political ally and a longtime admirer. In July, Trump imposed 50% tariffs on Brazilian imports, calling the trial a witch hunt and demanding that it be stopped immediately. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul M. Minor.
We'll keep you updated on that story as it develops. And now, a powerful earthquake has struck eastern Afghanistan, leaving widespread devastation in its wake. At least 800 people are confirmed dead, with thousands more injured after the 6.0 magnitude earthquake hit late Sunday near the city of Jalabad. The hardest hit area is Kunar province, where rescue teams and villagers are now racing against time to find survivors buried beneath the rubble. Here's more on that developing tragedy.
A devastating 6.0 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Afghanistan, killing at least 800 people and injuring more than 2,500. The quake hit near Jalalabad, with the hardest impact felt in Kunar province, where entire villages were reduced to rubble. Homes made of mud, bricks and wood collapsed instantly, trapping families beneath the debris. Survivors with no heavy machinery used their hands to dig through the wreckage, desperate to find missing loved ones.
Last night, an earthquake happened in this area. I lost 7 of my family's children, including 5 girls and 2 boys. And 3 of my cousins were martyred too, and 1 uncle as well as some of my other relatives. In short, our village has 200 to 250 casualties.
Currently, 4 or 5 helicopters have carried the injured, and the evacuation is still ongoing. This is a major disaster. Many houses have been destroyed, and a lot of support is needed to rescue people from under the rubble.
The shallow depth of the quake, just 8 kilometers, made the destruction even worse. With several aftershocks and limited access to remote areas, rescue efforts remain difficult.
Rescue work is underway in various areas, and we have some areas where rescue teams have not reached yet due to difficult terrain. We have reached them via helicopter, but not by road, because it's very difficult.
The full scale of the disaster is still unfolding as Afghanistan faces yet another humanitarian crisis. Elvis Muyodi, GBS News.
Violent protests continue to sweep across Indonesia despite President Prabowo Subianto's announcement to revoke lawmakers' controversial benefits. The move, aimed at claiming public outrage, has done little to ease tension. Demonstrators remain on the street for a second week demanding broader reforms and accountability. At least 6 people have been killed and over 1,200 arrested since the arrest began. Ibrahim Sahid has the more on that story.
The protest in Indonesia began last week after public outrage over lawmakers' proposed benefits, including a housing allowance seen by many as excessive. The announcement sparked demonstration in major cities, with citizens demanding accountability and rollback of what they called unfair privileges.
It's normal for the public to be angry because essentially there have been too many violations committed by the state. So many things done by the state, I would say, do not accommodate the people's aspirations, so they end up angry.
The biggest reform we need for Parliament is for them to work for the people rather than for the party leaders or the parties themselves. That's what reform really means. No matter who you are, it doesn't matter. As long as you only work for your party, you're not working for the people.
Despite President Prabowo Subianto's decision to revoke the allowance and suspend overseas trips for members of parliament, the unrest has continued. Protesters say the move is not enough, calling for broader reform and greater transparency. Police report more than 1,200 arrests since the demonstration began, and several deaths have been confirmed.
Terhadap beberapa kebijakan di DPR RI, tadi saya sudah sampaikan besaran tunjangan kepada anggota DPR, dan moratorium kunjungan kerja luar negeri sudah segera mereka tindak lanjuti.
Authorities are now bracing for further protests in the days ahead as civil society groups organize new rallies. While the government maintains that it is listening to public concerns, many Indonesians say they want lasting change, not just policy reversal, but a shift in how decisions are made and who benefits from them. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Ibrahim Said.
As the labor holidays get underway, tens of thousands of protesters have gathered at rallies across the United States to call for stronger worker protection and attack a range of policies undertaken by administration of U.S. President Donald Trump. More than 1,000 demonstrations came to the streets on Monday to span all 50 states under the banner Workers Over Billionaires. Protesters are demanding stronger worker protection, fully funded schools, healthcare, and housing for all, and an end to corporate corruption. Attacks on marginalized communities and federal outreach under the Trump administration. In New York, hundreds of people gathered outside the Trump Tower, chanting for Trump to step down and calling the president a fascist. As a brass band played, workers held up signs demanding a living wage and universal health care.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago.
I think Trump is turning ICE and the National Guard into his private militia. He wants to take over physically, and we have to stop it. And we have to use any tool we can.
In Chicago, we reject a billionaire's tyranny on our city. We reject a billionaire and his cabinet of billionaires who take from Medicaid, who defund public education.
I think our money should be moved from war back down to our communities where the money came from in the first place.
And that's all for today with me, Ambassador Susan Nganga, on the Ambassador 1 p.m. Follow our stories at GBS TV Africa. It's updated throughout the day. We meet every Monday to Friday as we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. Thank you for your time and company. Have a good afternoon.
Every